Get over it. What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Odds and Ends. Before we get started, there are some spoilers. I'll be talking about some parts of the game, like the ending and maybe characters and things like that, that on your playthrough you may have not gotten to experience yet. So if you don't want any spoilers, turn off this video, but make sure that you come back to it when you do finish the game. I have beaten The Last of Us 2 twice. I beat it on the normal mode, which is how I like to play the game, and then I jumped down a level so I could explore and find more collectibles and really kind of hone in and pay attention to the little details of the game, which are sensational. So let's just start there. If you've never played a Last of Us game before, this game plays pretty much exactly like the first one. It's essentially a hallway shooter. It's linear. You're moving down this hallway, and there's rooms on the left and the right. It might be a tattoo shop, maybe a restaurant. You can go in there, scavenge for items and resources, but eventually you get funneled in and you move in a linear path. So from that aspect, Last of Us is not a full 3D exploration game like I would say, like, you know, like a Horizon Zero Dawn or an Assassin's Creed Origins or something like that, where you got this big huge map and you kind of go everywhere. It's not like that. It's very linear with some minor platforming and minor puzzle elements. Like I said, the controls are pretty much exactly the same. They've added a couple new features that I wanted to talk about. The first was, you know, press X for jump. Now, I didn't think that they needed to add this feature in because in the first game, when you came to a jump, the character just went through a jumping animation. And really, being able to jump or having to jump is only used very minimal in this game. So I felt like they could have just done what they did in the first game and have the character jump, you know, on their own without needing the button. But, you know, whatever. I didn't think it added anything, but it certainly didn't take anything away. The next thing is the prone. In this game, you got the opportunity to go full prone. Again, something that's used sort of sparingly. Well, let me say, I didn't use it as much as I thought I was going to use it. There are some parts where you need to use it to crawl, like under a train or, you know, under a truck or something. But you can use it in the high grass to, you know, avoid detection. But, you know, it's just sort of, I thought it was more of a gimmick type control. And then the last control that I really sort of take an issue with is they added the old L1 dodge mechanic. Now, there was a dodge mechanic in the first one. I believe it was triangle, and he would like back away and do this motion, do the Jackie Chan drunken master motion. And this one, they try and get him to bob and weave a little more, sort of like Mike Tyson's Punch Out or something. But you push the button, it didn't feel as responsive as I hoped it would be. And unfortunately, it's a mechanic that you need to rely on a lot in the game because the enemies are a lot faster, they're a lot smarter, and you need to be able to dodge very, very quickly. And I just thought that mechanic didn't work out like I thought it would. Hopefully there'll be an update to maybe fix that. So, you know, from a technical perspective, how the game looks, sounds, plays, the atmosphere, those types of things, you know, A+, 10 out of 10 in those categories. Everything is spot on, the way you would expect it to be. I don't have any real complaints with the voice acting or anything like that. It's not, there are some like glitchy little things that happen, but they don't have a tremendous or really any impact on the gameplay. You still have this sort of buddy system where, you know, like Joel and Ellie in the first game, and you and Dina, or, you know, whoever, you and Jesse, and, you know, you could be hiding behind a tree, you know, and Jesse's out here just walking around, and there's bad guys everywhere, and they don't see Jesse. That is something that they are going to probably need to fix. You're either a team or you're not a team. And if you're not a team, get them out of there. A lot of the times I kept trying to go through a door and somebody was standing there and I was like, move. I'm like, move, get out of my way, move, you know? And that was a problem in the first one too, a little bit. So from the technical aspects though, you know, it's spot on. It's exactly what I expected. I wasn't disappointed really in any way. So one of the other things that, as I'm playing this game, I kept thinking of, maybe it's my own cynicism, maybe, I don't know. But I just felt like it called back to films and the first game way too much. So you know, Jurassic Park, the Velociraptors feel that very fast, they're very violent, kind of nuisance, you know, in the world there. And that was sort of the new enemy types. They had three new enemy types. One of them was the Stalkers. So they kind of fill that role. And then there's like a mega huge bloater that you have to go down in the basement of the hospital. And, you know, you have to fight him. And he does that walk past, like the Tyrannosaurus when you first see it in Jurassic Park. And then it swings around to the back of the, and then you have sort of this chase scene. And it's like, well, that's kind of taken from Jurassic Park. Another movie franchise I thought it relied really heavily on was Star Wars. Joel is obviously Ellie's mentor, just like Obi-Wan was Luke's mentor. He died. Obi-Wan died. The mentor died. And it's sort of an element of these types of stories that there has to be some harm to the main character in order for them to grow, and it usually comes in the form of loss. If you remember in Empire Strikes Back, the tone of that movie was really sort of Debbie Downer, right? Like the Empire wins, Luke gets his hand cut off, finds out that Darth Vader is his father, Boba Fett's taking Han to Jabba and frozen in carbonite. You know what I mean? 3PO's like blasted apart. So you know, Lando was a traitor. You traded on ya. And this game sort of had that vibe where it was kind of depressed. You have to lose. There was this element of loss, you know? Just like Luke lost his hand, Ellie lost her fingers. Just like Luke lost Obi-Wan, Ellie lost Joel. Like, I just kept seeing these elements in this game, and I'm like, Jesus, don't do that. And then it would do it. The other thing is it called back to the first game a little too much, and I thought it looked a lot like the first game. So we went from the East Coast, from Boston out to Wyoming. We kind of made that trek. Now we're in Seattle, and it should feel different. Like the environment should feel more lush and things like that. But, you know, I don't know. Again, the controls were great, but I just felt like here's a callback that I immediately noticed that I thought, ugh, they just did the same thing over and over again. In the first game, David is the head of this cannibalistic faction. He has some maybe child touching issues, and you're in a restaurant playing as Ellie, and you have to sneak up behind him and stab him. In this game, you play as Abby, and Ellie's running around trying to shoot you, and you have to sneak up behind her and stab her. And it was like the exact same thing. Instead of being in a restaurant, you're now in the basement of a theater. And at first, when I got into that scene, I thought, oh God, Neil, you're going to make me do something here that I absolutely don't want to do. I thought he was going to make us kill Ellie right there on the spot. Yeah, so those were sort of some of the callbacks. I don't know if you guys saw that in the game. Now, let's talk about Abby, since we are talking about Abby. So I didn't hate Abby as a character. I just thought you play as her a little long, right? And for that length, what character development did we get? Was there an obvious and like fair and equitable payoff for the amount of time that we spent with her? And I don't think there was, but again, I don't hate her as a character, but I think it's ironic that her dad was the doctor that we played as Joel and we killed in the first game. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, and if you've seen my playthroughs, we think of the most inventive, creative ways to kill that guy. Revolver to the groin, flamethrower to the head, hatchet to the neck, you know, all kinds of stuff. So it's very ironic that Abby's his daughter, and now she's coming after Ellie and Joel, which she's not really coming after Ellie. She's just mainly coming after Joel because they had an opportunity to kill Ellie and Tommy, and they didn't. We're just here for him, right? So this is what I'm talking about. Like, Joel is not a good person, okay? Joel killed... So how many people Joel killed in the first game? You think he cared about those fireflies when in their families when he was killing them? No. Do you think Joel cared about Ellie when he saved her? Maybe in his own sick mind, but you basically made a choice to save one person and screw everybody else. So you cannot kill in that world with that type of impunity and not have repercussions. Joel pretty much got what I thought Joel was going to get. And to be honest with you, I don't care if it was a golf club or a bullet to the back of the head. He didn't die gloriously on the battlefield, which in most cases in these types of games, some of these characters will do. You know what I mean? Like, they don't get the most glorious deaths. But, you know, Abby, you know, she's been plotting her revenge for like 4 years, and of course she's jacked. Did you see like her suite at the football stadium is right across from the workout room? Like, get up in the morning, throw some up, go about your day, come home, throw some up, and walk across the hall and go to bed. I wish I had a facility like that across my room. Maybe I wouldn't have size B's, you know what I mean? So, you know, kind of final thoughts with Abby here is they really forced you to play a really long time with her, and you had a little companion, little buddy with you, and they're trying to make you not only see from a different perspective, but they're also trying to simulate the feel, you know, those feels that you had from the first game with Joel and Ellie, and it didn't work. You know, I didn't go into this game expecting that I would have the same experience as I had in the first one emotionally. And that's what really The Last of Us is really, really good at, is giving you those emotional spots, you know, like in wrestling, those high spots, the big flips and the pins and all that stuff, the fake pins and counter pins, you know, meant to pop the crowd. And that's what the emotional aspect of Last of Us is, right? They give you the, when Sarah died, oh my God. When Tess died, oh my God. When you find out Joel lied to Ellie, you're like, he lied right to her face, right? It gives you those like emotional highs and lows. In this game, I don't think accomplished that very, very well. But again, it's hard to, we're comparing apples to oranges here. The first game is sort of on its own. The second game is designed to do something different, which was, you know, first game's about love, this game's about hate. And I love I hate that Joel died. I hate that this happened. I hate the packaging. I hate Ellie's hair. I hate bananas or whatever it is. It's like they did exactly what this game was designed to make you do. Feel hateful. So in that regard, they accomplished their mission. You know what I mean? So kudos to you, Naughty Dog, Neil, the whole team over there. You know what I mean? You did your job. But I wrote down some of the things in The Last of Us Part 2 that really made me feel a little something, made me get emotional, you know? So the first one was when you're riding with Tommy and you see Jackson lit up for the first time, and it's, you know, it's 4 or 5 years after the first game, and the game really treats you visually at this scene. There's like mountains in the background, there's, you know, you're in the forest and you're on this horse and you kind of look out, and it just looks amazing, and my heart just went. This is at the beginning of the game. This is like, you know, 10 minutes into the game or whatever. And I just went, man, you just remember how you got to Jackson, what it looked like before, you know, all the trials and tribulations. You fought a battle there in the first game. So, yeah, it was just sort of an amazing, like, oh God, here we go type feeling. And, yeah, it was really great. Joel's house, he had a lot of Wild Wild West stuff in there. Ellie sniffs his jacket. Yeah. And then the infamous Joel and Sarah pick where she's got her soccer jersey on and she's doing the peace sign that, you know, was in the first game. So to see those types of little detail callbacks was absolutely awesome. They kept going back to the hallway, the infamous hallway in the first game where you've beaten the last of the Fireflies and you zip down that hallway, kill the doctor, save Ellie, game over, right? So in this game, they go back to it, I want to say 3 or 4 times, but the first time you go back to it, Ellie returns to the hospital and finds her brain scan, and she finds the cassette tape where the doctor's saying, you know, we're gonna have a cure, it's gonna be, you know, we're gonna run these tests, do all this stuff, and she finds out that Joel lied to her at the end of the first game, which you're like, oh, she knows, you know. And then just walking that hallway again was sort of, the first game takes you on such an emotional ride that when you go into that hallway again, you revert back to that. You're like, oh my gosh. But there's that level of familiarity, you know what I mean? So it was a very interesting experience to walk that hall again as Ellie, and then you walk it later a couple times, I think, with Abby. I hated this part. There's a scene where you and Jesse are walking and you high-five. We had the option to high-five Jesse, and I was like, no, that's a first game. No, that should have never happened. That's sort of Joel and Ellie's thing, and in the first game, you had the option to, like, you know, diss him and walk by and not give him the high-five. I didn't like that at all, but again, doesn't really affect the game that much. Okay, so the game is about Ellie, and I thought that you don't play as much as Joel. Now the whole story is about Ellie. The first game and the second game are all about Ellie. They should have been all about Abby. They try to inject a little Abby into us, right? A little Abby into our life. But you know, to watch her character development from this innocent sort of 13-year-old child to this capable child warrior at the end of the first game. Here we go 4 or 5 years later. So she's what, like 17, 18, 19 years old by now. And she's an adult, and she is in full warrior mode. But she is not a Jedi yet. There's a part where she chases down Nora. She's trying to find out where Abby is. She chases down Nora, and she's got a pipe. And she's like, tell me where Abby is. And she's not going to say. And, you know, you can see she's hulking up, man. She's doing a 1980 Hulk Hogan. She's like, right? And then she hits Nora with the pipe, and you see the concern on her face. She's like, bang. She's like, oh. Then she starts hulking up again. And that's the moment when Ellie turns from this innocent child to this savage killer in this land. And I can't wait to see what she becomes in the third game. So, and then the last thing that I sort of kind of got emotional about, I didn't get emotional about it, but I think it's a spot that everybody's been waiting for since the first game. Ellie leaves that hospital. Go back to that. Ellie leaves the hospital, and she's outside, and Joel's like, where the hell have you been? You ran off, and right? Well, she had found out that Joel lied to her. So there's a scene, and it's you gotta see it real quick, because it just happens real quick. But Ellie's on one side, Joel's on the other side, and in the middle, in the background, like way in the back, is a communication tower, which is obviously broken, just like their relationship. And I thought, wow, that is some symbolism at its finest. And they only show it for like a split second, so if you play through, you gotta watch for it. It is pretty interesting. So, you know, I'm not going to give a rating, a 10 out of 10, or, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give it an 82, you know, stuff like that. But I will say Last of Us 2 is a great game. The ending was a little weird. So the ending, you get in this fight with Abby. She bites off 2 of your fingers, and then you're like, and then Ellie's just like, just go, duh. So then she leaves, and then you go back to your farmhouse where Dina and the baby, and it's like, she left, so Ellie's really lost everything. Now there's a prediction that, you know, she's trying to play the guitar and she can't because she's missing 2 digits, and there's a moth inscribed on the neck of the guitar. So maybe Ellie's gonna walk off and join her own, or start her own faction called the Moths. Who knows? But there has to be a reason that Naughty Dog left these 2 characters alive. If they would have killed Ellie, that would have been the end of the Ellie story, and we would have started with Abby. If they would have killed Abby, who really, unless she serves some purpose in the next game or in the DLC or whatever, there's really no point in keeping her alive either. You know what I mean? Like, just like all of her friends, there's no point in keeping any of them alive. So she's expendable. So it's just interesting that they left both of them alive. Although I hated that ending. I hated the ending to Empire Strikes Back too. And that was the second one in the trilogy. And we got Return of the Jedi, which is great. So hopefully we get Return of the Ellie or something like that down the road. I don't want to wait 7 years for it. But I was excited because, like I said, the graphics look great. And I can only imagine what it's going to look like on the PS5, or what Last of Us Part 3, which will be a later release PS5 game. I can't imagine what that game's going to look like. But just an amazing experience, I thought. A bit long. I wish they would have done 2 things. Here's the 2 things that I wish they would have done. 1, cut Abby's story from about 8 to 10 hours down to about 5 or 6. I don't need to know every little detail. I don't need to know how good a person her dad was or anything like that. Just cut that down. I would have cut 4 or 5 hours right off the game. The second thing I would have done is there's a spot where you're in the farmhouse with Dina and the baby. Everything's going well. You go out hunting, come back, and Tommy's there, and he's like, hey, I found Abby, and she's right here. And Dina chimes in. And goes, oh, we don't do that anymore. You know, we're out of that business. And Tommy's like, she made a promise to me. I wish they would have made you, as the player, make Ellie make a decision right there. Sort of like choose your own adventure. You get one ending if you just say, you know, Tommy, this is over. we killed all Abby's friends, and we've built a life here. And then maybe they have a falling out, and then you get like a cutscene, and then credits. Or, you know, you take on the challenge to go to Santa Barbara and try and find Abby, and then you get, you know, the better ending there. But I think it would have added a little bit more replay value because, to be honest, after playing on the normal mode, which, by the way, I thought was a little easy, and then playing on the light mode so I could explore and get all the collectibles, the length of this game is actually a turnoff. Yeah, so, I mean, the game doesn't lend itself to being a... you know, 1 or 2 long stream session type games. The first game, you know, Emerald Game Cave and I, we one sitting on the easy mode, 8 hours, 1 live stream, you know, who could do it the fastest. And, you know, that's doable because you know going into it, I'm going to play for 8 hours. I'm probably never going to pull this game off the shelf again and go, you know what, I'm going to stream this for 15 hours a day for the next 2 days. Not when I have all the games in my backlog, you know what I mean? But it sounds like I'm beating this game up a little bit, and maybe I am, because I love it. You know, I love the franchise. I love this series. I hope they keep it going. I kind of would like to see them choose different characters and different locations. This pandemic is not just going on in the United States. You know, there's clickers in Australia and, you know, runners and bloaters in, you know, the UK. So I'd like to kind of see some different locations. Maybe at least if it was DLC. You know, give me some DLC that was like, you know, 2 or 3 hours, different stories from different locations around the world. But anyway, The Last of Us 2, I guess final thoughts here. Last of Us 2 will be Game of the Year or Game of the Year contender for sure. These big budget AAA titles hardly ever disappoint, and this one really didn't either. I nitpick at it only because I care about it and I love the franchise. You know, some of you guys that like you know, Forza, you're like, well, see, this doesn't actually match up with that, or whatever game, but I think it will be Game of the Year, and up until now, it probably deserves it. Its sales numbers have surpassed Animal Crossing, which I don't play Animal Crossing, but I know it's a big title, and a lot of you guys out there love Animal Crossing. So, you know, if we're going on sales numbers and fanfare and all that stuff, Last of Us 2, man, is going to be right up there. So, can't wait to hear your guys' opinion, because I know you got one. So leave a comment down below if you haven't. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share on social media, use the Twitter machines and the Instagrammies and all that stuff. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you on the next one.